Here I'm performing a seated machine rear delt row. You can see I've adjusted the height of my machine. This is so that I am positioning myself at a height that allows me to row in its most effective position for my rear delts. So you can see here I position the height of the chair such that my chest is roughly around the same height as the handles. Now when I'm doing this, I'm also making sure that I position the support to be at a distance that is allowing me to have constant tension on the rear delts. So basically you do not want the support to be all the way to the front such that when you lower the handles all the way back, you are getting no tension as the weights are already rested onto each other. Now when performing this movement, all I'm thinking about is driving my elbows backwards. As though there's a pencil at the back of my elbows, I'm drawing a straight line backwards. There is no movement in my shoulder blade at all. You can see my shoulder blades are positioned on my rib cage and there is no excessive movement of the shoulder blade. It is kept at the same position throughout. All I'm thinking about is driving my elbows backwards in a straight line while keeping the angle at my shoulder at roughly 45 degrees. Now the point of the rear delts or the action of the rear delts is shoulder extension, and that is exactly what I'm doing here. I'm extending my shoulders backwards. Now the point is that when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're extending it backwards but not too far back such that your shoulder blades get involved as well, because that will mean that the upper back muscles will start to kick in and we do not want excessive upper back movement or involvement. So just to recap, when you're doing the rear delt row for this machine, you want to set the height of the machine such that your chest is roughly level to the handles of the machine. You want to set the chest support distance such that you are allowing constant tension on the rear delts. I often see the support too far or too near. Too near would mean that when you allow the handles to go back, there is no longer tension on the rear delts as the weights are already rested on each other, whereas too far away would mean that you are having to stretch the upper back as the shoulder blades will have to be protracted or gliding forward. Okay, and then when you're doing this movement, the cue should be to drive your elbows backwards in a straight line, keeping your shoulders at roughly 45 degrees, and you do not want involvement of the upper traps. The moment you start feeling that shrugging movement when you're doing this is the moment you know that the weights are too heavy or you are executing it wrongly. So make sure to keep the shoulder blade stable on your rib cage, no excessive movement of the shoulder blade, and drive your elbows back as far back that you do not involve the upper back. So usually a rule of thumb is I drive it backwards in a straight line, but I do not go past my torso or body. The moment I go past my torso is where I start to have my shoulder blades gliding forward and backwards, and I do not want that. So most important is to keep the shoulder blades stable and drive the elbows backwards in a straight line.